And the president has argued that this will be one of the most successful pieces of legislation in American history. But like a lot of things, the ultimate beauty of this bill is very much in the eye of the beholder. But let me run you through some of the groups that could be better off. First of all, big business groups, the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, they have cheered this legislation loudly because they're betting they're going to be benefiting from permanent business tax breaks in this legislation. Also, manufacturers are going to be able to fully and immediately deduct the cost of building new manufacturing facilities in the United States. Now, also, small businesses and partnerships formed by lawyers, doctors, investors, they should also benefit because there's going to be these permanent deductions for certain so-called pass-through entities. Look at the workers, tipped workers, they're going to be able to deduct up to $25,000 in tipped income through 2028. Overtime workers, they can deduct up to $12,500 of their overtime pay. One of the biggest winners here, though, are high-income Americans. The top 20% of earners, their net income could go up by $13,000 per year. That's according to the Penn-Wharton budget model. And look at this, the top 0.1%, they're really coming out ahead. Their yearly net income could go up by almost $300,000. Another key here for high-income Americans is that this legislation is going to allow people who live in those high-tax states and make up to $500,000 a year, they're going to be able to have this temporary deduction limit increase to $40,000 per year for the next 5 years. But of course, there are some groups, some business groups, some workers who are going to be worse off because of the changes in this legislation. Let's start with lower income Americans. As you noted, there's some significant cuts to the social safety net. We're talking about new and expanded work requirements for Medicaid and food stamps. And so some observers do believe that the take-home pay of lower income Americans could actually go down because of this legislation. Also, hospitals, they could be hurt by the fact that there's this reduced Medicaid funding from states. Got to look at what's happening in the clean energy industry as well, because this legislation calls for reduced incentives for renewable energy projects like wind and solar, also stricter requirements to get some of those incentives. And when you think about some of the opposition from Elon Musk, electric vehicles, they're certainly coming out as worse off because this legislation ends tax credits in September, that those tax credits had not been scheduled to expire until 2032. I think another loser here are those deficit hawks, because the Congressional Budget Office estimates that this package is going to increase the deficit by $3.4 trillion. And we know the United States already has a deficit problem. There's this mountain of debt. Look at this. This shows U.S. debt over time as a share of GDP. And what really stands out here with this figure above 150% is we're well ahead of the World War II level era of debt as a percentage of GDP. It started to go up during the 2007-2009 great financial crisis. Of course, there's a lot of spending to bail out banks and provide stimulus checks. It went even higher during COVID. Again, that was a once-in-a-century pandemic. But look, it just has continued to go higher and higher, even though we are in an environment of low unemployment and thankfully no health crisis right now. We are continuing to see the budget come under enormous pressure because of all of this spending out of Washington. So look, when you put it all together, there are obviously some people that are going to come out ahead, some who are going to be worse off. But I do think the big winners here are those high income earners and also big businesses.